This morning I am picking strawberries. I decided I was ready to have some strawberry shortcake, so I came out to see what I could find, and I was pleasantly surprised I had quite a bit. Now, I don't know about you, but have you ever just cut the tops off your strawberries or tried to core them out with a knife? I don't know why it's taken me so long to realize you can just twist them like this and pull the stem off. And this works when they're ripe. If they're not quite ripe, it doesn't work as good, but this is a perfect way to get these out. So I'm just gonna work on getting these all taken off, and then I'm gonna get them all chopped up. And my fingers, I promise, are not dirty. They're just stained. I've been doing a lot of picking all different kinds of things out in the garden. I'm just putting a little bit of sugar in here, and I'm going to get them covered up and tucked into the refrigerator until we're ready to use them. And it was really good. I had also harvested a bunch of the dill that had come up in my garden. These were actually volunteers from last year, so I just let them grow. And I'm not making pickles this year, so I'm just going to stick all of this in the dehydrator. I'm using kind of a light jet on my sink just to get any bugs or anything else that might be on there out. It didn't look like I really had any, but just to be on the safe side. I always find my volunteer dill is almost better than ones I plant from seed. But I'm just getting them chopped into more manageable pieces and stacked onto my dehydrator trays. And you can stack them pretty thick because they dehydrate very quickly and shrink. And it smells really delicious, by the way. Now I'm just going to stack all of my trays into the dehydrator. Get the cover put on. And it was going to be 92 degrees this day, so I just went ahead and did the right thing, and I put it out on the deck. Now these are my girls. Every morning I throw them some scratch, but when I'm in the garden in the morning now, they think that I'm going to give them something different, so it takes them a few minutes to decide they want to actually eat their scratch. This is Bee's Friend, and they're starting to go to seed, but they still look so pretty. And my marigolds. Oh my goodness, my lilies are just showing off, and it's fabulous. These are just loaded and loaded with buds. My dahlia. This is grand dog number 1. This is Sage. And grand dog number 2. This is Rudy. So we're headed down to the garden to show you the garden tour. And I mentioned, I believe in last week's video, these were just starting to bloom out, and I said give them another week and they will just be loaded. Aren't they gorgeous? And I started both of these off of little cuttings that I took from a friend's mom's place before she was selling it, and was really pleasantly surprised how quickly they took off. They're supposed to be climbers. I don't really prune them back much, but they are not getting super tall. But they are, as you can see as we come into the garden, this side of the fence, they're kind of dangling off into here. So I don't know, eventually I may put a trellis up and over there. That would be kind of fun. But here is the herb garden. Everything is just kind of blooming out at this point. It's that time of year. You can see the oregano is getting bloom heads on it. And the carrots are getting nice and big. I actually pulled one out the other day because the tip of it was poking out, but it hadn't really finished developing its roots. And then I've got a volunteer potato in here from one I forgot to take out. And over here in this carrot bed, I had some butterhead lettuce starts, and I just kind of tucked them in here so they'd get a little bit of shade. They're doing pretty good, even though we had a couple of days of 90-degree weather, so I'm happy about that. Goji berries. Potatoes are starting to turn, at least in this pot. And then this pot over here I planted probably a month later, so they're just getting going. And then again, I have some of the butterhead lettuce in there with those potatoes. But this is my potato section in my raised beds, and I love growing them this way because it's just so easy to have nice loose soil for them to grow in. But you can see many of them are starting to die back already. I've had these in the ground for probably 3 months already. I usually put them in the ground in the late spring, but the other day I was out here. Let me see if I can find it. So here is one of the purple potatoes. It's not quite ready yet, so I'm going to cover it back up. But I try to go through here and put more on top so that they don't get exposed to the sun. This other bed of potatoes, as you can tell, they're starting to die back as well. And I did already pull one of the plants out of here and use the potatoes. They were just the little new potatoes. And then my blueberries are still in the netting. This one over here actually has some that are starting to turn blue. And then the lilies, they have just exploded. They're so pretty. Kind of taken over this bed though. When I planted them, I think of this one right here, I had one, and it's just multiplied that much over the years. And then I do just have one orange one. I couldn't fit the whole nut bag over this one, so what I'm going to do with these little individual ones is I have smaller mesh bags, and I'm just going to individually cover the clusters of those ones. But this year I was incredibly surprised with my raspberries because the golden raspberries have been super dominant, and this year the red ones decided they were going to fight for their right of space. So I have a bunch of red raspberries, and I'm really excited because I love them both. I love red and I love the golden raspberries. And one of my favorite things in the morning is just coming out here, picking my berries and eating them. Wish I could share some. And the golden raspberries are so pretty. They kind of start out really light, and then they blush into a kind of a medium golden color, and then as they get riper they turn into almost this golden orange color, and they do get softer as they get more ripe, obviously, and they tear more easily when you take them off. My English peas, I've already been harvesting some off of here, and the fun thing is, this one's not ready yet, but my granddaughter loves to eat peas out of the shell. And then my kohlrabi, you can see they're starting to form down there. I'm really excited. I just love to eat this with just some dill dip. So good. This is just one section of basil that I have. The rest is down in my other field, but I have it next to my sugar snap peas. I've been harvesting a lot off of here. I think I've already so far gotten almost 2-gallon bags full, and it looks like I need to come pick again. This one is ready. My zucchini, in amongst these darn weeds, can never seem to get control of them. I had my first bloom on my zucchini, but it was a male, so I'm hoping in the next few weeks here these plants will bush out a little bit more, and then I'll get some female blooms. Down here in this bed, this is where the garlic was, and I just have 2 lonely black crim tomatoes. I had a few extra. I ran out of tomato cages, so I need to find a way to support these. The pear tree. You know, this pear tree is so interesting. It's a dwarf pear, but I don't feel like it really gives me the best pears, and I'm not sure. I wish I knew what variety it was. They never seem to get very big, and they're always kind of hard. I don't know. I just have been juicing them because I don't know what else to do. My cute little Pixie Crunch apple tree. And I'm going to do the espalier where I put or espalier, I don't even know how to pronounce it. But you put posts with wires, and you kind of train them like they're growing on a wall. That's been my goal. I have posts down here. They've probably been sitting there for 2 or 3 years already. I haven't gotten it done. It's just life. And in this bed, I put some my cilantro, and you can see I just kind of have a little makeshift shade cloth over it because we had, like I mentioned, a couple of days in the upper 90s, which cilantro will bolt very quickly if it is stressed by heat. So this seems to have helped, and I've been keeping the ground nice and moist in there. And in my middle row here, these are my blue squash or blue pumpkins. I absolutely love them. They're so pretty, and they're already starting to do their vining thing. I have to be really diligent to keep them kind of out of the walkways, so I end up just like lining them across the bottom. And the dahlia, that's been there for years. I just leave it because it attracts pollinators. Speaking of which, a hummingbird just flew by. And in here are more black cream tomatoes. Again, I had tomato cages for half, and I'm going to have to use part of a cattle panel for the other half to get those staked up. We have a lot of coastal wind here, and look what it's already done to this tomato. He's like laying on his side, so I'll try to get that done today. These ones are staked up. They're much happier. And I have some pollinator plants in here to bring them into the garden. The other trellis of my English peas, and then look how tall these tomatoes have gotten. If you watched my previous videos, they were just little when I put them in there. It just amazes me how quickly things can take off. And as you can see, I do have some onions that are starting to behave themselves and come out of it, and then I do have some that are like, yeah, I don't think so. So whatever, I'll get what I get, I guess. And then these are Better Boy tomatoes, as are these. These are also Better Boy. And then in this bed right here is the broccoli. Some more of my English peas. On the other side, more English peas. I like to get as many as I can. I've canned a bunch, but my granddaughter, like I said, loves to eat them just plain. So we freeze a lot for her because she will eat them in stir fries and things like that. This is my self-wrapping cauliflower. It's doing great. And then my 2 rows of strawberries, which my chickens are staring me down because every morning when I do come out and check and pick berries, any of them that are kind of like old and not doing very good, they get them. So they are always at the ready. So I just thought I'd show you. I opened up the sugar snap pea. Normally I eat the pod and all. I've already eaten a couple of peas out of them, but they're developing really nicely and they're so good. My voice is kind of scratchy this morning. I apologize for that. The pollen index here has been horrible, and it's just making my throat scratchy. Okay, so we're going to take a little walk down. Our property is sloped. Not horrid, but it is sloped. This is the bane of my existence. I get one section cleaned up, and I turn around, and it's just a mess again. Like, literally, you do one section, you move on to the next, then you move on to the next. I had this nice and trimmed not that long ago, and it's just a mess again. This is my next area I'm going to work on. It's just my greenhouse area. These tables out here, when I do open for plant sales, I have it looking a heck of a lot better out here. But the 2 years with my daughter's cancer treatments have just been a nightmare. So I haven't been selling anything out of here. But these are purple vervain. Aren't they pretty? And then down there, these actually are the beautyberry bushes. I have 2 different containers of them. I started them from seed. This is their 2nd year, and I think I'm trying to establish a really pretty flower bed along the entrance of my driveway. And then these are 9 barks. I pulled them out of the field. We did have an extra growing field going, and it got just taken over with, you know, weeds, of course. So I pulled those out. One of my sweet potatoes, I had 2 of them in there. One of them rotted, and the other one is now just making slips. So I'm not sure. I'm going to plant them somewhere, but I'm not sure how much I'll get out of them because we're already mid-June. And over here by my shed, this area used to be weed-free and beautiful. But these plants right here, and aren't they just the cutest? Hummingbirds love them. The bees will absolutely swarm these in the afternoon. This is a manzanita bush. I actually have several in here, and they have started rooting into the ground, and so unfortunately I can't move them now until the fall when the weather's cooler. I don't want to stress them. But these are my delphiniums. Walk past all my weeds. Oh my gosh. If you have property and have a heck of a time like I do, let me know down in the comments below so I don't feel so bad. It is just like a nightmare. I used to live on what my husband likes to call a postage stamp, which is just a lot in town. And I had it so meticulous, the neighbors used to laugh. They'd stop when they'd drive by and say, "What in the heck do you think you're pulling out of there now? You don't have any weeds." Well, anything microscopic that came up, I had it out. And now I'll just pan. We got tons of blackberries on the property line, weeds on the other side of my beds. I've just come to accept it, but it gets frustrating. But these are the drumstick flowers that I planted. I think I planted them last week, but the sweet peas, oh my goodness, I just love sweet peas. They're so pretty. They're kind of just getting going, and they'll climb up the fence. And then I did, in a different video, I had snipped the tops off of these as they were growing because they were getting too leggy, and made a whole bunch of starts. And I have a calendula down there, and I have deer deterrent in these bags with my cantaloupe. And I'm not saving seeds from any of these, but then I have 2 cucumbers in the middle where a squirrel dug up my cantaloupe plant, and then these are just orange gourds. And I'm going to train them to grow up the trellis, and then I probably, if they get too heavy, I'll put the little gourds or the cantaloupes in, I'll put the little gourds or cantaloupes in a mesh bag just to give them a little more support. But as we walk this way, this is kind of the direction that I go for my lower fields. This section right here is mostly just a bunch of perennials. This again is the marshmallow plant. It'll bloom white and it looks much like a hollyhock. I have some bee balm. And then this is the valerian. And this is milkweed. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I am part of the Monarch Watch Station program, and you have to have a certain number of milkweed plants on your property to be in it, and it's to encourage the monarch butterflies to visit your property and lay eggs and overwinter. And honestly, I don't know if they have just changed their flight pattern over the years, but I don't really seem to get any doing that so far, and I've been doing it for about 5 years. But again, the purple Brazilian vervain and the valerian. And let me just back up and I will show you just how tall these plants get. I'm 5'5", and these plants are probably at least 6'5", almost 7 feet tall. So they're really a nice backdrop border plant, and they're sturdy. We've had so much wind, and I do have this little fence here, but it really doesn't provide much blockage from the wind, but they've all stayed upright, thankfully. And then panning over this direction is my panicle hydrangeas. They are white, and they're budding up beautifully. I cut them back a little bit harder than I have the previous year, so they're not, I'd say they're about a foot shorter than normal, but that's okay. And then back in the back is my one older, I call it the old-fashioned variety, but it blooms on old wood. This is feverfew, and I use it in flower bouquets, but if you let it go to seed, it will take over and come up everywhere. Drives me nuts. And over here, a couple weeks ago, I showed you, this is a goat's beard plant. There's actually 2 of them in here, but they start out, there's this one little last straggler bloom. They start out white, and then they fluff out like this and are bright white, and they're gorgeous for about a week and a half, and then they turn brown and die. But they are pretty. And then my stock flower, and then in the center there that's green, that is my larkspur getting ready to bloom. These are lilies. They are absolutely monstrous. And then down in here, sorry, I'm fighting my fencing from the deer. See if I can zoom in for you. This is what a gomphrena looks like. They're little bald head flowers. Really cute in bouquets. They will get taller. These are just getting started, and they always bloom short, and then you cut them and they come back. And this bed, let me change angles here. Okay, this is the black adder dianthus. See if I can get down close for you. So you can see it's kind of just like a deep maroon, but I guess that's what they consider black. There is no true black. Right here is my daughter's. I let her have this little section. She just turned 30, and she loves ranunculus. So this is her little section where she's put all her ranunculus. And then as we walk down, this is the section that has everything growing in the black weed mat. And because we're on a sloped property and we are at the base of a hill, everything that we seem to put in, and you get it all perfect and straight and everything works like it should, and then the ground just kind of shifts a little bit because of the water table. So this latch does not fit properly anymore. We have to readjust it, and it will just blow open if I don't have the chain on there. But as we come in this first row, this is what Bupleurum looks like. So if you've watched previous videos and seen me talk about this and show the plant before it's bloomed out, it is a beautiful filler flower, as we call it in bouquet making. And these are more starts of it coming up down here. And this is the bunny tail grass. These are from last year, so they are already at the end point. And I harvest some when they are green, and then I harvest some when they are in kind of this amber state like this down here. Trying not to move you too fast, but you can see down here these ones are green, and as they get taller I harvest those and then dry them in that state. And then the status is just getting going. Then we have straw flower. Let me see if I can go down there. So this is the straw flower, and if you can see, I already have blooms coming. I have most of them I snipped and some of them I did not. So the ones that I snipped, like this one, you can see the multi-branching coming out. And then this one right here that is already starting to bloom, I didn't snip. So most of the time the ones I didn't snip, like this one, you can see the tall central stem coming up. You'll get your first blooms on that. So I kind of do 3/4 snip and 1/4 knot so that I have some blooms to work with earlier, and then I wait for the rest to come. And then this is honeywort, and it has these beautiful little purple flowers. This one's kind of finicky. It likes the cooler weather, and it will tend to wilt when you pick it. So you kind of have to pick it really early in the morning and then get it in a cool location and let it sit for about 12 hours. And this is Persian cress, and it blooms these little tiny white flowers, which are kind of insignificant, but once they're done and before they turn like an amber color and go to seed, we use this in bouquets, and it just kind of has like an airy, whimsical feel to it. Next row over here, I have celosia. It's kind of one variety, and then the row next to it over there, that is celosia as well. But on the rest of this row are all of my snapdragons. I do have some that are blooming and some that are just coming up to bloom. So the rest of this row, and then the next row over, that is all zinnias. And watermelon, I have several of these. When we had that nice hot weather, these really took off. And then these are my pole beans. You can see they're starting to get their little trendles. But these ones over here, look how far out he's reached, and he's got himself attached to the cattle panel. So that'll be good. And down there are a couple volunteer plants, and I'm probably going to leave them until, well, I'll probably just leave them. And this row is marigolds. These are what the little Eskimo marigolds look like. They're not a true white, they're more of a creamy white. And this variety only gets about 1 foot tall, so I use these in like vase arrangements. But the rest of these marigolds are the tall marigolds, and they'll get probably 4.5 feet tall. And most of these, again, I snipped, so I have some blooms starting to come, and they're just getting going. And then I have the Rudbeckia Sahara. It's getting going, and I already have some little short blooms on it. And these are my peppers. And I noticed this little one right here, he already has a bloom on him. These plants will get much larger, but they're already starting to do their thing. And after the peppers, I also have just my bush beans, and they're already blooming out. And then back at the end here, I just have some basil. Oh, this poor plant, look at this. So the wind got him trapped under there. I'll have to tighten it down. But this needs a little shot of fertilizer, unfortunately. And this whole row is my Roma tomatoes. I got them all staked and clipped to the stake, and I'm working on thinning out the leaves so they have more room to breathe. And then as you take the leaves from the base, it also allows the heat from the blackweed mat to radiate up onto the plants. So you can kind of see where I've trimmed up the bottom, and this one I have not. And then we will go over to my other field. All right, and here is my big field. This one is mostly perennials in the middle. I have lavender. Most of my lavender plants died because our water table is so high and they prefer to be wet, or they prefer not to be wet, but a few survived. And I have some sedums there. And then here is the last area that I'm putting my corn. So you can see, I have one more succession after this, but they're just getting going. I planted the last of what I had ready yesterday. And then if we walk, try not to move you too fast, if we walk up this way, with my pile of weeds everywhere, I have sunflowers tucked in. So sunflowers are so cute. So they are facing me right now, and that is because it's facing the east. So they always follow the sun. So right now they're facing east. As the sun gets high in the sky, they'll be straight up. And then as the sun goes towards the west, they will turn their little heads the other way. I just think that's so fun about them. And here is the gorgeous lavender. I need to get out here and cut some of this for drying. And then up here, this is the corn that we planted several weeks ago. So I think I'm on my 5th succession planting. So as you can see, I've got my rows of corn. And as we walk down the row here, see if you can see, you'll notice the height difference. So the big, and now they've kind of stepped down just briefly. And then as we get down to here, they step down again into a shorter size. And that is to the end of the row. And then the end of the row, I just tucked some of my new succession of sunflowers. And then I also have some of my pumpkins in here as well. Little pumpkin there. So yeah, that is the garden this week. I'm kind of exhausted because my daughter had her last 15-hour breast cancer surgery, and she stayed with us for about a week while she was recovering enough to be able to do stairs. And so we finally took her home the other day. But that's been where most of my time has been spent. This is a butterfly weed plant, again, to attract the pollinators. So I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things this week. This cute little pink plant is a Veronica. I didn't pay attention when I bought this. I thought it was the taller variety, but this is the dwarf. So again, I just use those in little vase bouquets. And then over here is yarrow. And people love this in bouquets. It can be invasive. It does spread. Like when I planted this, I had 2 nice rows, and now they're kind of melding and getting into the rows. So if you have hung out with me this far in the video today, I just want to say thank you so much. I truly appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time.